Muy bien, ya estamos en la sala 1, llegó el momento de presentar a Donald Taylor, uno de los más destacados expertos globales en materia de aprendizaje y desarrollo, que hará una inmersión profunda en los resultados del LID Global Sentiment en este año. Donald compartirá tendencias de aprendizaje digital a largo plazo, lo que significan para la formación y el desarrollo en el lugar de trabajo, y si la inteligencia artificial afectará nuestras profesiones. Les recordamos que tienen la posibilidad de elegir la interpretación en simultáneo, seleccionando el icono del mundo y eligiendo el idioma español. Queremos darle la bienvenida a Donald Taylor, conferencia presentada por nuestros sponsors plata, Universidad Blas Pascal, Speaks. Welcome, Donald.
Muchas gracias. Thank you very much. Great to be here. Are you ready for me to start?
Yes, I think you can start.
Thank you. Okay. I'm going to share my screen, start the presentation, and I hope to be useful to everybody in the room. It's great to be here. Just confirming my speaking language. English. There we are. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I need somebody to enable me to share my screen. So at the moment it says host disabled participant screen sharing. If you could enable that, that's great. Meanwhile, I'll just let everybody know what I'm planning to talk about here. I'm going to talk about two reports that I've brought out recently at different times.
Sorry, Donald, now you can share your
screen. Thank you.
And you?
Okay.
Excellent.
So I'm, as I said, going to talk about a couple of reports that I've produced recently. And I do like to be in touch with people. So please put your thoughts in chat to share with me what you're thinking today. I don't think I can, oh, I think I can chat with you. That's great. I may put some notes in chat later on, but also the slides are available later. Thank you to Fiat for the possibility of speaking here today. That's very much appreciated. Saludos cordiales. I like that. Thank you. Okay. I want to say thank you to the sponsors that make it possible for me to run my reports. And again, thank you to Fiat for being part of collecting information from around the world for the Global Sentiment Survey. Let me start by just talking about these two reports. Don't worry about the URLs at the bottom. I will put the URLs into chat in a minute and you can download them. But the two reports we're going to focus on in this short webinar are the Global Sentiment Survey. That looks at what people think about learning generally, and that was concluded by 3,200 people in December and January. The other one, AI in L&D, was completed in April of this year, published in April of this year, and it looks just at what are people doing with AI in learning and development. At the end, there's a slide with two QR codes on it. One QR code enables you to follow me on LinkedIn. The other one lets you download these slides. So don't worry about missing something. Everything will be available later. There's four things I want to look at. I want to look at the Global Sentiment Survey. Then I want to look at what is happening with AI in L&D. Then I want to go back to the Global Sentiment Survey and just think about what's happening in L&D beyond AI. And finally, we have our conclusion. So let's look at the results of the Global Sentiment Survey for this year. It's a very simple survey. There are 4 questions. One question is, which country do you live in? This is the only obligatory question. What do you think will be hot in workplace learning and development? And I give people a list of 16 things to choose from. The survey's been going for 11 years. This year we had, as I said, 3,200 voters from nearly 100 countries. And we always get a good showing from Central and South America. I very much hope we'll have more voters from Central and South America in the future. that's the one question. The third question with people is, what describes where you work? And you can see that most people work in workplace learning and development, and the rest are spread over different places. They're consultants, they work for a supplier. The other question which I ask people is, what's your biggest challenge in learning and development? And this year, 94% of people answered this question. 94% of people answered the question with a total of 27,000 words. If you know writer Ernest Hemingway, he won the Nobel Prize for his book, The Old Man and the Sea, which is 27,000 words long. So each year I'm reading about the same number of words as in a novel, and they're all about how unhappy and sad people are. So it's quite hard work, but also it's very important to understand what people are saying. And when I ask people that question, what's your greatest challenge? 94% of people answered the question this year, but in the previous 2 years, only 40% of people answered that question. That tells me that people are really worried about some things at the moment. What are they worried about? Well, we'll explore that in a minute. That big question where I ask people, what will be hot in workplace learning and development in the next year? I give them 16 options. These are the options, and they choose 3 things. Just have a look at that for a moment. I'm going to have a sip of my coffee, and you just think to yourself, which one of those would I choose? What do you think is going to be hot this year? All right, let's look at the answers. These are the answers for the year. And you can see that, well, perhaps unsurprisingly, perhaps surprisingly, I don't know, the most popular option was artificial intelligence. Last year it was number 2 on the survey, this year number 1, with a vote of 21.5%. I'll look at that in a minute, but it's much more than number 2 option, 11%. These arrows here tell you, was the vote higher or less than last year? So Natalia is saying, well, for her, it's AI. Rios is saying AI and mentoring, AI and reskilling, matching the idea, I think, of the people who answered the survey, which is that, yeah, typically AI is the most important one. And you can see that the 3 green arrows are here. Everything else has fallen down the survey this year. And that's because most people voted for AI. So it's pulled all the votes out of the survey. I'll explore that in a bit more detail. I just want to have a look at the 3 key takeaways from this survey. Firstly, AI dominates it. It's at the top of the table. It pulls all the votes up from the survey. So almost everything else falls down. The second point is that AI is part of a general movement. If you look at this, the top 5, and there's a gap between number 5 and number 6, look, about 2%. The top 5 are all to do with data and skills. You need data, you need information about skills for all of these. It's very different from the rest of the table. I'll look at that later on. And finally, learning and development feels tougher than ever before. You can't tell that from the numbers, but remember that question I asked, what is your challenge for this year? 94% of people answered the question. People feel more challenged this year, and what they feel challenged about is AI and technology in particular. Little Maria, I can't understand what you're saying because I don't speak Spanish, but it looks like there's an expectation and a negative reality about ER or AI. So very interested to hear that. I'll go back and look at those with translation later on. Before I look more at the survey, just very quickly, options tend to come down over time. Mobile delivery started as a hot topic in 2016. I took it off the survey last year. This is what normally happens. And you can see that in the past, here's AI and here's virtual reality, and they have been falling down the survey as you would expect. What happened this year? Well, this year, virtual reality continued that downward trend, what we'd expect. not artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence came up last year and really jumped up this year, going off the chart. Well, Donald, you might say, is that just normal? No, it's not. Look, here's what the number one option has got on the table in the previous 9 years. And this year, bang, it jumps up to 21%. It's a big, big difference. So this year is special. This year is special, no question about it. What happened? Why has AI changed so much? And are people in learning and development doing anything with AI? We did this research, me and a colleague, Eglevin Alskaita, did this report, which came out last November on the anniversary of ChatGPT. And we asked people, what are you doing with AI? And there are two groups of respondents, employers in blue, other people in orange. 45% of the employers, 1 year after ChatGPT was launched, 45% of employers were doing nothing. And these were people that answered the survey who were excited by AI. In other words, in 1 year, very little had happened. But if we move forward, we'll see that things have changed. If we look at this other report I want to look at today, which came out in April this year, which I published just before Learning Technologies, the conference that I chair in London, you can see the difference. I asked people, what is your planned use of AI? Okay, what is the plan? I'm just going to answer Marco's question. Are people already using AI? Yes, they are. There's been a big change from last year to this year. So organizations are using AI. I would recommend downloading this report. Here's the URL for it. I'll just put that into chat. And the let me just get that for you. Okay, if you download this report, you can read the case studies, which will, there are 7 case studies in here of organizations that are actually using AI. And it's very interesting. What are they using AI for? So we asked for, what are you using AI for in learning development? And we had a survey of 315 people. And we gave them a list of things they're using it for. If you look at it, most of the results are around content. Most people are using AI in some way for content. The second thing they're using it for is delivery. So personalization and user research. The third thing is skills and data. This is strange because there has been lots of talk about how useful AI is for skills, but not many people are actually using it yet. I'll talk about this more in a minute. Finally, performance support, which should be a very powerful use of AI, also not being used very much. Now, this business of everyone using it for content, but not for some other things around skills and so on, you might say, maybe naturally we will use the content first and then we'll begin to use it for skills. Maybe. But my colleague, Eglevin Alskaita, produced this thing that she calls the complexity scale. On the left-hand side, there is a simple use of AI with learning and development. And on the right-hand side, a sophisticated use. What does this mean? Well, on the left-hand side, learning and development can use AI without anybody's help. On the right-hand side, we need extra skills. We need technology and we need relationships. Let me show you what I mean. Over here on the left, the administrative tasks, the learning, design, and content, these are things that learning and development do without needing anybody's help. But if you want to practice things, if you want to do data analysis, and particularly if you want to do skills management, you need data from the organization. You need to have access to it. You need, I can see Famila Dupont is raising her hand. If you have a question, that's great. Please put it in the chat in English. I'll try to manage it. If you want to go to the right-hand side here, the sophisticated side, you cannot do it by yourself. And I would recommend downloading the report. You don't have to register. I'm not going to ask for your email address. Just go to that URL, download it. And you'll see that in the case studies, the sophisticated people are working very closely with the rest of the business. And here are some of the things they're doing skills intelligence, workforce planning, internal mobility, really sophisticated things. But to make that happen, you need relationships. This is not just a technical issue. It's actually a people issue. You need to have people's trust to work with the data of the business to make it work. We could talk a lot more about that if we have time in a minute, but I want to make sure that I don't take up too much time today. I've got 20 minutes and I want to finish on time. Let's just look very quick at what's happening outside of AI, and then we'll conclude. On this table, remember we have these arrows that go up and down, and they tell you, are these numbers bigger or smaller than last year's numbers? Well, this tells you how much they're bigger and smaller. And you can see that apart from AI, which went up last year by a huge amount, the only things which are bigger this year are personalization and learning analytics, and skills-based talent management is kind of at the top because this is a very small drop. But I want to look very quickly at three options that have fallen down this year. And they are very similar: consulting with the business, showing value, and performance support. My view is that these show how much people care about value. They consult with the business to find what the problem is. They do something, particularly performance support, that directly impacts the business, and then they show the value of what they've done. Now, these three options are a bit different. Here's two of them. At the beginning, consulting and showing value, they're going downwards as we'd expect. In 2019, I added performance support on, and then something strange happens. For the next 5 years, these options don't continue going downwards. They're on a flat line. In fact, they go up very slightly. But this year, they fall away quite dramatically. What happened? I think what happened is very simple. People were excited about AI. They voted for AI. They forgot about value. I think forgetting about value is very dangerous. I can't wait to see what happens next year, because that number, all those votes for AI, will not continue. So what will happen next year? Well, I hope we start to take value seriously again. But there's something else about this top part of the table. Sorry, let me just go back. Okay. There's a slight lag for some reason. I don't know what's happened to the internet. Here we go. So at the top of the table, we have these three options which did very well. This tells us something about learning and development. If we compare the top of the table in 2024, these are all, as I said earlier, about data and about skills. 4 years ago, it was something to do with data, AI, but it was also something to do with delivery, like learning experience platforms and collaborative learning. And if we go back another 4 years, collaborative learning, consulting, mobile delivery, micro-learning, these are all very traditional views of learning and development. This is only perception. This is not necessarily what is happening, but the perception is that we have moved from a traditional world of delivery to a world where people are much more focused on data. We have to collaborate and trust each other at the corporate level. Maria de Consuela is absolutely correct. If we can do that, Maria's comment is correct, then we can really build ourselves into the business as a whole and impact the business in a positive way. That's a really important comment, Maria. Thank you. Jesus, I'll try to answer your question in just a second. I just want to conclude with two very simple points. Firstly, here is what is happening. I've talked it over. Interest in and fear of AI is huge. Interest and value appears to be falling. Most people are using AI right now to produce content. To make a more sophisticated use of AI, we need relationships. We need what Maria is saying there, collaboration and trust. We may be moving to a more data-informed learning and development. It's all, I travel the world. I talk to people all over the world. A lot of people are a little bit scared about what's going on. Here's what I wrote in the summary of my global sentiment survey. L&D can have a powerful impact. We really can. I see it happen. It's our choice. And there are some things we can choose to do and some things we can say, well, we're not going to do those things. And that gives us the time to have more impact. Here are the 2 QR codes. I'm going to just put all of these links also into the chat so that you can click on them if you want to, if that's easier. And I'm going to very quickly try to answer Jesus Manuel Hernandez with his question: how can universities intervene in the sophisticated use of AI? I'm part of a group that looks at how universities are using AI at the moment. Some universities are using it in a very sophisticated way. Some are not. I think the answer is not to try to do everything yourself. It is true whether you're in a university or in an organization. I would download the action report and I would look at the case study for Ericsson. Ericsson will tells you a great method, not using AI by itself, but for exploring the use of technology altogether. You could use that approach at university. You can use it in any way. Maurice asks, is AI the beginning of creativity? No, it's the opposite. Maurice, every technology begins as a differentiator. We see it in wartime. One country builds a plane, the other country builds a better plane, and the technology improves, but each country then gets to the point where you've got something and I then have something and there is no advantage. It happens all the time. What makes the advantage in the technical world? It is exactly the creativity of human beings. Our technology gets us here. That's an advantage, but then the other people get the technology. How do we make ourselves different? We go from here to here, and that gap is filled with what human beings can do. So no, it's not the end of creativity. On the contrary, it is vastly more important than ever that human beings are creative. And that's what we should be really focusing on, helping students and individuals at work to be. Thank you very much, Maria, for putting that straight in. I really appreciate that. Listen, I'm very excited. I could talk to you all day. I love sharing thoughts and ideas with people from all over the world with different experiences. I notice my time is up. I had 20 minutes. That's 20 minutes gone. So I'm going to hand back to my host to say, thank you very much. I'm going to step off the stage unless you have something else for me to do.
Thank you so much. Agradecerles también a todos los que nos han seguido hasta aquí. Hemos llegado al final de esta primera jornada de FIAD. Les agradecemos, por supuesto, y los esperamos mañana a las 13:30 Universal Time para continuar con más innovación en el aprendizaje y el desarrollo. Mañana vamos a anunciar a algunos de los ganadores de todos los beneficios que nuestros patrocinadores tienen para ustedes. Pueden revisar el programa y no olviden completar el perfil para aprovechar al máximo la herramienta de networking que ofrece la plataforma. Muchísimas gracias nuevamente por habernos acompañado. Nos volvemos a encontrar mañana.
Muchas gracias. If we haven't been able to answer your question now, like Anna, Vianney, please send me a message on LinkedIn. It's the end of a presentation. Let's make it the beginning of a conversation. Muchas gracias a todos.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan. Thank you very much.
Thank you.